Broncos Country. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup. I hope you have a nice Halloween now.
Albert, the Mile High Dutchie, getting us scared right off the bat, man. Happy Halloween to you, man. That was a creepiest introduction I think we've ever had.
I think we never had one.
Hopefully, there is absolutely zero people afraid of clowns out there. I apologize if you are. I also apologize for anybody that tuned in to our very first broadcast that didn't flip over onto Facebook and we killed. I understand that it did go up on YouTube, so people were wondering where we were going, what was going on. Well, we're back, and we're back with myself, Keith Brugman, your host. Again, Albert, the Mile High Dutchie, kicking us off the show, and Trevor Salzman, all in the house here on Halloween. I wanted to get to Albert first real quick, and Albert, we were talking a little bit on that first podcast, but Halloween is something a little bit newer for you. Talk about that, bud.
Yeah, before I came to the United States, we did not celebrate Halloween at all. I think 95% of the Dutch population don't even know what Halloween is, and it is one of my favorite holidays.
It's just amazing, man. We think of it as a very, very old holiday, something that comes from way beyond us, and it's just not the case, man. It's nice to know that you have adapted this holiday and it's became one of your favorites. Trevor, Halloween memories. Of course, you've probably grown up with it your entire life. You remember what was the earliest you remember going out trick or treating, Trevor?
Probably when I was 5. Probably just getting into school because we did the whole, take your costume to school day, and you got to just like the whole school got together, and you just got to kind of celebrate with everybody. And then I know it was a whole deal of. Well, in where I live, we have a main street, and everybody gets to go down Main Street and gets to go all through all the businesses and get candy, and then also just at night, and then just going out at night and get all the candy. But that was probably 5, I would say.
Five. Yeah. All right, man. You've had a few years. I'll ask Albert next. Favorite costume you ever wore?
My favorite costume I ever wore. Probably one of my first ones I had. I was a barbarian with a true broadsword on my back.
Nicely done, man. Forget about the plastic, man. He's carrying the heavy iron, man. Trevor, how about you, man? And anybody in the comments, feel free to jump in. I already see there's a lot of friends already jumping in and joining us, so... Favorite costume, Trevor?
I'd probably say my Scream outfit. The rest of the years was like more like Batman. I'm a big Batman fan, so I was Batman for I swear like 10 plus years. So.
Very good. So you had a long run of the same costume. It was like when you finally mixed it up. Gotcha.
Well, it was different editions of the Batman costume. It wasn't the same every year, but I'm a big Batman fan, so that was definitely a big mainstay for me throughout my childhood as far as Halloween goes.
Trevor's like, I'm 1960s Batman. I'm 1990s Batman.
Each genre.
Going through them all. That's fantastic, man. Love it. Got Michael Ronquillo, good friend of the show, jumping in here. First one in. I think before we went live, said, good evening, Keith, Albert, and Trevor. Go Broncos. Absolutely, man. Go Broncos. Again, nice to be on here on a Halloween, doing a little bit of still celebrating, still feeling pretty good. It hasn't rubbed off quite yet, It's kind of like the Halloween paint that Albert has. I don't think it's going to rub off quite yet. So nicely done, by the way, Albert.
Thank you.
The Gritty Gang is coming in here and saying, sup, fellas. And I got to jump in the comments, make sure I get everybody here. This is Miss Michelle Knoppers coming in and saying, ha, ha, ha. Evening, gents. Happy Halloween. Yeah, look at that paint.
She did this.
She was the artist. Fantastically done, Michelle. Wonderful. Pearl's coming in, not from the East Coast, from Colorado, here, right in Colorado, saying hello. And Michael Ronquillo jumping back in, saying, great news, the Broncos didn't trade any Broncos players. Let's see what we can do in the second half of the NFL season. Yeah, no fire sale for all the thoughts that we had early on, maybe a month ago. not a fire sale. Far from it. Not a move made. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Roy is jumping in here. Our good friend Roy. It's been a day or two. It seems like we've talked to Roy, and Roy's coming in here and says, I was a werewolf guy.
Ooh.
Nice. I could see a deluxe werewolf costume, when you're all done up, and could be one of the best out there. I don't know if it's going to beat Albert's clown, but, at the same time, we can put it to the test. You can always send us a pic if you have one. See, man, that's something else. Bronco clown right there, man. My favorite, wow. I do have a kind of a go-to Pirates costume, and if you can imagine, with the beard and the whole nine, it pulls off quite well. I do remember, one of my first costumes, and probably one of my favorite. If it wasn't one of my first, I know I had this. I'm pretty sure I had the old school Casper the Ghost costume. Oh. So that was big. That was big for me, man. I love that, man. So Facebook user coming in. This is Michelle saying, "Can I just say it feels great to live in Chiefs Kingdom with that freaking fantastic win." I can only imagine. It's been a few long years, hanging around the Kansas City area, Michelle, having to take those losses one after another. That all goes away, man. Got that off our back. Must feel good. I even had a guy. I had two people, since I wear my Broncos gear quite often, and I was out in public. One guy just stared me down until we almost got like face to face. He's like, "Well, you got one win," and I thought, must be a Chiefs fan right there. Yeah, exactly. Second guy, our second gal actually, she just said, "Nice sweatshirt." And I turn around, her husband is wearing a Broncos hat, kind of like Trevor's over here, man. So,
I have a funny story about that.
Very good. I'll hit the last comment I want to hit, and then you got a funny story. I said Trevor. So used to having Trevor in this now. Getting used to all the new hosts and co-hosts we have here on the Denver Bronco Roundup. Appreciate it. Just wanted to say, Jeremy's jumping in here and saying no fire sale, and the remaining schedule is manageable? ? Again, we'll get into that. Funny story around that, Albert. Go ahead, buddy.
So we were living in Washington State, and we were in one of the big box market stores, things, and all of a sudden I hear a guy, "Oh no, a Broncos fan," and I turn around and see him in I believe it was a Chiefs fan. "Oh, you must be a Raiders fan," and he was so mad, and his buddy who was with him was laughing so hard.
Wonderful. Love it.
This is what I do here in Kansas City too. If "Oh no, a Broncos fan," I turn around, "Oh, you must be a Raiders fan."
Love it, buddy. Well played. Michael Ronquillo coming in and saying, Freddy Krueger was my favorite Halloween costume. Ooh, I could see Michael as quite the scary Freddy, man. I could see it, buddy. That would be a nice one. Going kind of old school horror flick, right there, man. I love it. Nothing kitschy. Going full out scary. Kind of like Albert's. I don't know. Albert might have made me scared of clowns. I don't know, man. Came in pretty dang creepy, man. Rewind it for anybody who didn't catch the very beginning of the show. I'm telling you, man. I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
We might need to put that in your intro.
We'll have to make
Halloween.
We'll have to make a little reel out of it. That's what I can say. Who do I have here? I'm sorry, man. Go Broncos Country only. Oh, I know who that is. That's got to be Ernie. Yeah, there it is. Ernie May is coming in saying, "Go Broncos Country only." Hello, all three. And hello to you, Ernie. So great to have you, man. Appreciate you joining us, man. Appreciate you jumping in, and always love having your comments. Kind of like Kenny Kirkpatrick saying, "Happy Halloween, everyone." Albert, I'm stealing your costume for my Knicks. He loves it, buddy. Loves it, man. That would be a good Knicks one as well, man. I like it. Also jumping in and saying, "My friends and I were the Jackson 5 senior year of high school. We won best group." Now, we were talking a little bit earlier how we need to see some photos and we could do some comparing. Kenny, Jackson 5, senior year of high school. I would love to see a copy of that photo. We're friends on Facebook. Like any of us that can be friends on Facebook. Just, hey, Keith Brugman, Albert Knoppers, Trevor Salzman, look us up. We're good friends. We'll hit the friend request back and get to sharing and talking beyond the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Appreciate you all. So Pearl's coming in and says, mine was a Star Trek character. Very nice. Like it. Like it. Beam me up, Scotty. Here comes Pearl. Right onto the Denver Bronco Roundup. I like it, Pearl. Fantastic. My wife is a big kind of a Trekkie. She used to have a bunch of stuff she thinks she still has hidden away someplace. Kenny's coming in and saying he's going to find those pictures as well. So, man, got it right way off topic from what we had on the agenda. But man, I love it, guys. Thank you so much for sharing some great costumes out there. We should have put this out here before, and then we could have had a costume contest. Pull any old photo, you know. Ooh, that would be
next
good.
Halloween.
Next Halloween, we'll put that in the bag, man.
Absolutely.
All right. So, guys, a few people already talked about it in the comments. We kind of hit on it a little bit. It was going to be a fire sale. Didn't end up being a fire sale. Could have been moves made. There certainly were moves made. Trevor, I haven't given you a whole lot of screen time as of yet. I think it's about time, man. Why don't you talk about trade deadline, your thoughts, your input? Did we do the right things? Give it to us all, buddy.
Yeah, so the Broncos obviously they just they stayed pat the deadline. We kind of talked about it a little bit, kind of hinting up to the deadline that they might just kind of not be making any deals unless they get value back. It kind of seems like that's the way this team went. I think overall, I think it is to remember is continuity. I think that's what Sean Payton is trying to establish with this team. That Chiefs win was really big for this organization and its culture changing. And I think that it's really nice to see a coach and a GM just stick with their guys and not bring in any outside help and just see what this team is about the rest of the year. Again, I don't believe this team has been playing up to the standards that they should be. And what the talent shows, I think that they definitely can be better. And I think you're seeing that in these past couple of weeks as we're on the 2-game winning streak now. I will say, it does also come with a little bit of a risk standing pat because you lose the risk of possibly losing out on draft picks. This team absolutely does need going in the next year. You have 6 picks now the Broncos have going in the next year's draft. So, again, we can debate and kind of talk about it. And other than Joseph Jewell, there's other guys who are in the contract. So you can move those guys to the end of the year. I guess that leading up to the deadline, I was kind of realizing that a little bit more like, okay, well, if we're going to move an expiring contract, then I'm all for it. But just to give up, Jerry Jeudy for, let's say, a 5th-round draft pick, a day 3 pick, it makes no sense right now with where the Broncos are at. They need to see what this team can do. You take away a wide receiver threat like Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, for that matter. What are you doing to help Russell Wilson? So are you really getting a true evaluation of Russell Wilson? So overall, I think the Broncos. I think it's a good philosophy. Something we haven't seen from them for past couple trade deadlines. Again, last year they traded Bradley Chubb, so it's good to see them stick with their guns. We'll just see. I think going forward, was it the right move or not, based upon the end of the year, what they do at the end of the year.
Absolutely, man. Stayed put. It says a little bit about what the Broncos are thinking, what the upper brass are thinking, and Graham is thinking that, geez, Albert. Look at that dedication from Albert, says Graham. Graham, appreciate you joining in, Graham. And yeah, it's a full-on costume. He's fully dressed out, painted up. Albert, what did you think about this trade deadline? Staying pat? Did we do the right thing? Should we have let go of a piece? Should we brought in a piece? And what are your thoughts overall, all the way around, bud?
Yeah, to me it was a surprise. I really expected that. Some players would get traded, but apparently they believe in what they have, and they are moving forward with it. And it also means loyalty now towards the players. Probably the players also thought, "Oh, I will be going. I will be going." A lot of them were probably anxious, and now they say, "Hey, they're gonna stick up with us," and that shows that the staff is willing to deal with stick with us, and maybe we can create loyalty backwards now. And yeah, we have I think last Sunday was the best game we have seen in the last 7-8 years.
That's tough to argue, buddy. That's tough to argue because it sure feels good. Like I said, it still hasn't rubbed off. It was such a change for, well, everything. The momentum of this team, not just for this year, but for several years. I didn't research it, but I think this is right. Someone said Justin Simmons can finally enjoy a win over the Chiefs.
He has
That's
never.
amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Think about that. So, yeah, it's past time. It's overdue, and it sure feels good. And it dates back very, very far from a good feeling win. I would have to agree. Go ahead, Trevor.
I guess I want to ask this because this is some of my thoughts on it too. I would say, did the Broncos get too high on themselves after this Chiefs win? Like, did the Chiefs win just affect them doing a trade or not at the deadline? What if they did lose that game? Are they making it so standing pat here at the deadline?
Gotcha. What did it change? Did this game change, and did it change it too much in the mindset? I like the question, kind of like, and I'll answer that in just a second. Kind of like I like our good friend here, and Clayton, right? Clayton, yeah, Clayton, yes. Hey, guys, and then coming back in and saying, smash that like button and share, guys. We appreciate that so much, sir. That's huge. To answer your question, Trevor, in my opinion, I don't think so. And the reason being is because I was just kind of looking at the trade deadline in general. If you want to talk about, high draft picks paid out, a third rounder for Chase Young to go from the Commanders to the 49ers was probably one of the Bears and the Commanders, Montez Sweat, 2024 second round pick,
which may be early pick, by the way, might be top of the second round.
So and there's been a little bit of question of whether that was an overpay, obviously, within this market. Beyond that, it's like Rasul Douglas, cornerback, a fifth rounder, and they get back a third rounder. I guess one last one, Leonard Williams for a 2024 second and a 2025 fifth. So, it was a big market for a few, but beyond that, I mean, when you start talking about Josh Dobbs for a sixth and a conditional seventh, nothing really to write home about. Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver, about the only wide receiver that was really traded for a 2025 sixth round pick. So
that shows you the market right there with the wide receiver market right there. Talking about Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, a sixth round draft pick. Broncos weren't going to take that for Jeudy and Sutton. No way.
Yeah, and how far do you think you could stretch it above and beyond a Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? I mean, It's not like, and I talked a little bit about this, and Albert, maybe I'll pass it over to you. I know that you kind of have a thought. I don't want to cut you off, but I also want to get your thoughts on this. On a team that hasn't been winning, how do you value the pieces and parts on that team and say these are high-value pieces and parts, and get excited about bringing them over to your team and paying or maybe overpaying for them? I think that was also part of the struggles that the Denver Broncos had, in this trade deadline. They didn't have a Bradley Chubb or a Von Miller sitting there, prime and ready to go that everyone knew was that guy. It didn't seem like we had that guy that is certainly available for trade. Albert, like I said, you wanted a little bit of time probably for another thought. I think I heard you kind of want to jump in there, and then your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, only if a team that is really desperate is willing to pay high. Only a team that is desperate. If they lost, for example, the Dolphins, if they would lose Tyreek Hill, and they might be willing to get a wide receiver and pay lots of money for it, or lots of value for it. But other than that, no. And Chris Young, who went to the Niners, guess what? The Niners don't lose any pick. It was a compensatory pick. It was a trade for, So they didn't lose pretty much nothing for it. So they have a Chris Young pretty much for free.
Chase Young, yep.
Yeah. Well, and you look at it also. What you also look at guys, a lot of these guys are on expiring deals. They were out the deadline. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, both are on expiring deals. They were two of the biggest names out there, and they got the most back for them. So it just shows you right there, teams are just willing to give up players under contract, up at the deadline. It's mainly expiring deals. Teams that didn't see these guys move on the roster going the next year.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're looking to do. The Commanders in particular decided not to go and extend out Chase Young. They had that option. They decided that's not the route they wanted to go, and in doing that, you knew that they had to either come to a decision right about now or this offseason on whether they were, re-signing him or whether they were just going to let him go. Well, if you're on an expiring contract, you can get a little bit of value, and like as Albert pointed out, if it's a compensatory pick, if it's a little addition that you end up picking up, it doesn't feel like you've given away nearly that much. You're not I'm wondering if they're going to become kind of like the Rams, where they're going to use a lot of draft capital in order to try to bring players in. Seems like they're kind of mimicking that formula. Kenny's coming in and saying, I heard there were a lot of fans that were going to dress up as tanks, but they weren't any in Colorado. Love it, Kenny. Love it. Kenny's also coming in and saying, tank this. We don't tank here. That is for losing franchises. Oh, and I think, no, that's actually Kurt, I think, that's jumping in and talking to Kenny on that one. So, by the way, Kenny and Kurt have a fantastic, network of shows at this point over at the K&K Sports Show. Check those guys out. Kurt's got a fantastic Denver Broncos podcast that goes on Wednesday nights, not to be confused with the Rocky Mountain Sports Network Denver Bronco Roundup Tuesday night that you're watching right now. So go check them out tomorrow night. Every once in a while you can catch one of our faces on there, but they cover all of the sports, coast to coast, east to west, north to south. Whether it's your basketball, your baseball, your football. Not as big or into hockey, but where they make up for it, they got a great Wits and Wagers show. Check out the K&K Sports Show. Another one that I want to check out, Graham's jumping in here. Oh, he jumped in a little bit later than that. I apologize. He's coming in here and saying, if we don't start winning more, the Broncos could be looking like fools since we didn't trade anyone. I see a little bit of head nodding from Trevor. I'll go there first for a few words. I'll jump over to Albert right after that. We don't have to go long on this, but do you agree with Graham?
Yeah, I mean, again, if this team ends up, just depend on how many games this team ends up winning the rest of the season. I mean, again, right now our hopes are really high after beating the Chiefs. But again, if you just suddenly win one or two more games, I mean, it's going to be a disappointment because you weren't able to move a Josie Jewell and because you're going to have to re-sign Lloyd Cushenberry in the offseason. He's not going to be cheap. So, I mean, and Josie Jewell's a free agent too. You have the chance to move an expiring contract. I don't necessarily think it's a lose for the guys under contract, Jerry Judy, Colton Sutton, all those other guys, because you can move them in the offseason. But for the expiring deals, yeah, I think it is a missed opportunity if this team doesn't, at least show some progress. I think going the rest of the season and end up winning one or two more games. Yeah, it's going to be a disappointment, I would say.
Albert, yeah, I mean, well said. Your thoughts on this, man? Are you in agreement with our good friend Trevor and Graham here, or do you think we're going to be okay just staying where we sat?
So if we have not traded anything right now, if we keep losing, guess what? There's another deadline coming, and we can trade then. This is not the end. This is not the end of it. We have another. Well, how long is it? 4 months, 5 months, 6 months till the next draft, and a lot of things will happen during the draft, and that's always been the case. And I will see that happen again, right for the draft, or during the draft, or right after the draft. Mm-hmm. Things will happen. I think the Broncos are smart. Keep what you have.
Jumping around on the comments a little bit too much, Graham. I kind of tend to agree with what Albert's saying. The pieces that we could move are not big pieces. They're not big, huge, expiring contracts. I don't see where Josie Jewell, whether he expires and we just let him go and we bring in somebody, or we try to. Honestly, I just don't know how much we would have got in return. You know what I mean? Is it really worth letting Josie Jewell walk out the door for a 6th-round pick, a 5th-round pick. Again, looking at what the trade market was showing, I don't expect Josie Jewell to demand much more than a 5th or a 6th-round pick, and maybe as low as a 7th. You know what I mean? I just don't. I don't know if anybody was that hot on any of the Broncos players, especially those under expiring contracts. Now, the one downside is man, we are low on draft picks. You know, we don't have a ton of money, you know, that we're going to be able to spend in just straight out free agency. So, you know, the team that we have could look very similar to the team that we see next year, just based on where we're sitting, you know, what we have and what we know. And hopefully that includes more wins as we continue through this season, and we'll feel a little bit better about that being the case.
Does this? Sorry, Albert, go ahead.
Yeah, and the money thing, I think that will be resolved really quickly with the new cap limits, because they believe that the cap might go exponentially higher up than what it is this year because of Amazon and the other contracts. So I think the money is not going to be that big of an issue, and maybe that's why they keep Russell Wilson, because it's not going to be that big of an impact anymore.
Graham was actually, I think this was just a little bit earlier, not replying to that particular comment, but Albert, when you were talking about all the other opportunities we have in order to move on and change this team, Graham's coming in and saying, good point on that, Albert, as well. So nothing for me. That's good.
Yes. So what do you think that Sean Payton was going to, just doing nothing at the deadline and not trading these guys away to get picks? You think this kind of signals that Sean Payton doesn't want to rebuild going into the offseason? I mean, depending on what the Broncos do the rest of the year, I don't think Sean Payton wants to come in here and rebuild. I think that's a little something that hasn't talked about as much, but we could be looking down the line and say he's not interested in rebuild. He didn't come here for that reason.
I think he wasn't. To answer your question, Trevor, I think he wouldn't come in predetermined with the idea that he was going to rebuild and there were pieces on this team that he didn't want. You know, I think, maybe a Randy Gregory isn't here anymore, you know, and we saw Frank Clark come and go. But that being said, I don't think he came in. If that was the case, then you would have seen Jerry Jeudy for a 5th round and a conditional something else in the next year. You know what I mean? Or something like that, just to get picks, to get quote-unquote capital and try to, you know, facilitate a true rebuild on this team and get rid of contracts. I don't think he came in predetermined with that idea and that mindset. That being said, I don't think, we go back to that value piece. I don't think there was huge value being thrown around for Denver Broncos players from the other 31 teams.
I don't think he wants to rebuild right now either. I think that I think he valued these guys pretty high for a reason. I think he just does not want to rebuild right now. I think he sees something on Sunday that shows, I think, his confidence in this roster going forward.
Dutchie, did you see the glimmer?
Glimmer?
Did you see the glimmer of a potential this last Sunday? And is that the reason why? And hey, is that a good thing that, again, kind of just joining you into this conversation once again about all of this?
Yeah, the team that we saw on Sunday, that is a playoff team caliber. They were playing at a playoff caliber level.
That's fair to say.
The defense of the Chiefs is pretty stout defense. Of course, we had given several turnovers, but that is what wins the game. And how do you get to turnovers? By playing very well. And it finally turned, it went the Broncos' way with the turnovers. And you only enforce that because you play very well. And that's why we were more lucky with the turnovers.
I agree. I do got to recognize my sister, who sprung it on me that she took a little trip that was way pre-planned, and she's at the World Series right now. So she's saying greetings from the World Series. Well, thank you for tuning into the Denver Bronco Roundup while you're at the World Series. So I appreciate that, sis. Michael Ronquillo, things jumping. Michael Ronquillo over on YouTube jumping in and saying some NFL draft picks might not pound out if we traded any Broncos players for NFL draft picks. And yes, that certainly is the case, man. You're giving up what you know for potential, and how good you are at, evaluating potential. It becomes huge into that portion, that piece right there. You have to be really good, man. And agreed, if you're going to give up, as we were just talking, all of a sudden you give away Jerry Jeudy for a 5th round and a possible later round, or something in a future draft pick, in a future draft, but you're getting basically a 5th round pick back for him. What's the likelihood that you can get Jerry Jeudy talent in the 5th round? You have to be good, man. You have to be really good. So, good point, Michael Ronquillo. Appreciate it. Just like I appreciate Pearl coming in here and saying Broncos are on the list for a wild card spot at the bottom, but hooray. They should be. I want to get into this AFC West, and who's there and what the potential is, guys, because year after year after year we talk about the Broncos and this AFC West being one of the toughest divisions in football, and year after year it seems like it falls off a little bit, and this year is certainly no different. If you look at the Chiefs, obviously leading the way, but just got beat by the Denver Broncos, splitting the series. They're at 6-2, and then it falls off quite a bit from there. The Chargers technically lead it because they've already had their bye week, so they're at 3-4. The Raiders at 3-5, and Denver at 3-5. So, kind of right in the thick of it. I posed the question on our ad: hey, can the Denver Broncos rise from the dead? What are the potential of the Denver Broncos becoming, in competition for the AFC West division title? Albert, I want to start with you, man. Can the Broncos make up that difference from the 6-2 Chiefs to the 3-5 Broncos and take those leaps and be in contention near the end?
I don't think they can dethrone the Chiefs with 6-2, because I think that's a little bit too late. But the second spot, if they play like this, like Sunday, if they keep playing the entire season, I think they are in the playoffs, and they might even make it further in the playoffs. They might even go to the AFC Championship. If they play like that, yeah, absolutely.
So Albert's saying, man, sneaking in the back door aren't going to be that division champion. They might have to sneak in, coming in through the wild card, win their way all the way up to the AFC Championship. He says it's certainly a possibility. And Clayton's coming in here and saying, yep, they sure can, baby. Let's go. Yes, yes, yes. And Pearl giving up the, oh, please, pray hands. That would be fantastic. Trevor, can we go up there all the way up and start competing with the Chiefs? Can we knock them out and be the AFC West division champs? Or, as Albert put it, is there still just a possibility of sneaking in on that wild card and making a run?
Yeah, I think this season it's really tough to do so because you're having to make up quite a bit of games. The Broncos are going to have to go on a pretty good run, and the Chiefs would have to kind of lose out on their luck a little bit as they did with the Broncos on Sunday. But I would say wild card would make sense to me. They sneak in as a wild card if they do make it in. But I would say the rest of the division is very winnable. The Chargers are 3-4, Raiders are 3-5. So it's just everybody else is not doing very good in the division right now. So Chiefs are on a team that's above 500 right now. So I think it's very winnable. And looking across the AFC, there's a lot of teams the Broncos are kind of behind right now. But as far as a wild card with the extended playoffs, they're behind teams by about a win. So it's very manageable, I think, especially if the Broncos go on a run. They sneak in as a wild card. But I don't necessarily think that playoffs is a great thing, but I just want to see this team get better and continue to take steps forward going into next year. That's my biggest thing. Obviously, I want them to make the playoffs, no doubt about it. But just taking those steps, I think, would prove a lot for this team's future.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny's jumping in here and said how to step away for what's the topic, fellas, if you don't mind me asking. We're talking a little bit about just where we stand in the AFC West. Can we compete with the Kansas City Chiefs? And, is there a possibility of getting to the playoffs? I want to just kind of back up, and I'm going to give you kind of a rundown here real quick. Tell me who you feel best about in these schedules. The Broncos, I'll start with us. We had the bye week, and I'm just going to go 3 games, or the next 3 weeks, I should say. Bye week, Bills, and then the Vikings. Vikings just lost Kirk Cousins for the year. The Raiders have the Giants, the Jets, and then the Dolphins. The Chargers have the Jets, the Lions, and the Packers. And the Chiefs start off by traveling over to Germany to take on the Dolphins, get a bye week, and then take on the Eagles. I can tell you, I don't know if I necessarily would want to be the Chiefs having to travel after this loss to take on the Dolphins overseas, get a bye week, but then still have to take on the Eagles. That's rough. The Raiders having Giants and Jets feels pretty good. I'll be honest. It might be the easiest schedule, but then they round it out with the Dolphins. Not an easy team to just beat up on. Chargers with the Jets, Lions, and Packers. Lions look like the meat of the order on that one. But then the Broncos, coming off the bye, coming off the win, get the Bills and then the Vikings. How do you feel about Albert? I heard you kind of chiming in. I'll give you the mic first. What do you think about that?
And don't forget the Jets. Their defense is stout, and the Raiders are not gonna overcome that one. So they will definitely lose that one. And so I see the Raiders maybe win one of the 2 games of the 3 games. And the Broncos, they should be able, if they play, like I said, if they play like this for the remainder of the season, then at least 7 of the games are winnable.
Yeah, we don't have the worst schedule in the world, guys, if you really want to look at it. We can go through the last remaining of the schedule here in a second, but I'll get Trevor's thoughts on those 3 games from each AFC West opponent. And how do you feel about, us shaking up near the top rather than sitting down near the bottom?
Yeah,
at the bottom.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely favors the Broncos because also I think one thing to consider: Chargers and Raiders are having head coaching problems right now. These are 2, Brandon Staley and Josh McDaniels. Get 2 guys that has ties to the Broncos organization. Those 2 guys are their jobs I think on the line this year. And the Chargers have vastly. I mean, they've been horrible this year. I think, and they've not lived up to expectations. And the Raiders with Josh McDaniels, they're seeing Devontae Adams just going berserk on the sideline, throwing his helmet and everything. So those are 2 organizations right now that are just not in a good place. And the Broncos, with the momentum against the Chiefs, I think that they definitely are. And I think it's definitely winnable. Again, we talked about it on Sunday. The Bills, they lost to the Patriots. Patriots haven't exactly been very good this year either. So they're definitely beatable. There's nothing to say that they're not. And so I would think the Broncos and the Chiefs right now I don't know what the whole Mahomes being sick thing either. I don't know how that's going to affect him kind of traveling, and with the Eagles being a Super Bowl caliber team, I think it's definitely the Broncos that has the definitely easier schedule going forward if they take care of business and play like they did against the Chiefs. Although, if they play like previous weeks, I don't know, it's a little shaky, but if they play like they did against the Chiefs, it's definitely there, I think, for them to take.
Yeah, Michael Ronque coming in on YouTube again saying Chiefs have the toughest schedule. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want Dolphins away bye week and then the Eagles. Don't get me wrong, it does lighten up from there, but it all depends on where you're at, man. If you take 3 losses in a row, where's your headspace at? Is Taylor Swift still your girlfriend? There's a lot of questions to be answered. So Kenny's coming in and saying, can you get 6 wins? I say yes. That's a winning record, 9-8. Oh, saying 6 wins from here. Yeah, absolutely, man. Getting 6 wins from now to the end of the season. Yeah, absolutely. 9-8 and a possible winning record and a possible playoff contention at that point. I like it, Kenny. Appreciate you having a little bit of faith in our Broncos over here.
Would you take 9-8 if they didn't make playoffs, but they still had that record?
Well, it almost doubles their wins from last year, so you got to be pretty happy about that, man.
That's what I talk about being. I would be okay with that if they didn't make playoffs and they won. And finished 9-8. That to me is encouragement, and that's to me doesn't signal a rebuild at all going into this next offseason.
I'll just run through the rest of the Broncos schedule. If you guys want to talk any more on it, we can, and then I'm going to jump over to our last topic, and that was going to be our midseason MVPs, if you remember, right? So got some comments that came in. We put a post out there on Denver Bronco Roundup, kind of shared it around the Facebook world, and got some little bit of feedback. But if any of you commenters are out there, or any of the viewers, any of you guys out there want to talk about your MVPs midseason, offense and defense, throw them in the chat. Love to talk about it as well. Going through the Denver Broncos schedule just to kind of round it out. Again, bye week, Bills and Vikings. Those are our next 3 weeks. After that, we got Browns. Browns with a formidable defense. Not sure exactly what's going on offense. Yet to be determined. The Texans and then the Chargers. Gets a little bit tougher as we play the Lions, but then gets a little bit easier, at least it looks like on paper, as we hit the Patriots. And then final 2 games of the seasons, Chargers, Raiders. So potential going down the stretch against your AFC West opponents to leapfrog, get yourself in position, better your standing, if nothing else, within the AFC rankings as well. Great stretch of games right down the as we head down the pike, I guess you could say. So couple of comments, and then we'll unless did you guys have anything that you want to talk about on that schedule?
I just think it's very winnable for sure. I mean, the Chiefs game is a huge momentum for this team, and I think they can take care of anybody. The Chiefs are one of the best teams in the league, so
I like it, man. I like it. I think it's very winnable as well. Like Albert has continued to point out, the way that this team played versus the Kansas City Chiefs, if they play that way through the rest of the season, who knows what is possible? Who knows what's possible, man? I do know what's possible when Michael Ronquillo comes in. He says things like this: Broncos need to take one NFL game at a time. Ain't that the truth? Just start stacking those wins. Don't look too far ahead. Just know that you got to take it one game, put it in the rear view if it happens to be a loss, because you're going to run across 1 or 2 of those. Not going to go perfect from here for the rest of the season. One game at a time. Graham says, the best thing any Chiefs player has done was giving me confidence in shooting my shot. Thanks, Travis Kelce. Hey, got to give it to him. It's the truth, man. The guy, who would ever think that you could just walk up and start dating Taylor Swift? Well, Travis Kelce, man. He's like you said, just got to have the confidence. So, Jody's saying, Jody Moncrief, by the way, can be found here on the Denver Bronco Roundup, typically on Tuesday. Right now, he's finishing up with some trick-or-treating and the kids. So have fun out there, Jody. I hope you had a great time with you and the kids, and hope everyone's having a good, safe Halloween. But he's coming in saying, I am calling 7-2 or 8-1 to finish the season. Wow. Then you don't have to get over those losses too often, man, if that's the case. But yeah, it's a very winnable schedule, man. Chargers have been struggling. Raiders have been struggling. These are 2 teams you're going to be playing, 3 times that are AFC West opponents. Texans, not big. Vikings, hurt. Patriots, don't look good. I mean, there's reason to be kind of excited about the teams that we still have left on the schedule, even if we thought different of them at the very beginning of the year.
And the Vikings send a 3rd-round pick to one team for a quarterback. I'm not sure.
Dobbs.
Dobbs.
Yeah.
Yep. Trying to get themselves a little bit of help there, but we'll have to try to get that all facilitated and orchestrated.
Yeah.
Yep. This is Roy coming in saying, I think the schedule is doable provided we keep playing well. 100%, buddy. That's kind of what we were saying. And Albert hit it very, very hard at the very beginning. The way that we played, continue to play that way, anything is possible. Kenny says, if I had to be fair, 2 losses, Chargers and Lions. You beat the Bills, though. I love it, Kenny. Oh, by the way, if you go on the K&K Sports Show, rewind to a prior episode, I was on there at one point, and I said my two biggest upsets to not make the playoffs this year were the Bills and the 49ers. Well, not too far off with the Bills with the possibly falling off, and 49ers I might need a little bit of help with still, but Brock Purdy's not looking perfect. I can tell you that. They might have some issues there as well. So, guys, MVPs, man. MVPs, mid-season MVPs. I want to start off with Albert if I can. It looks like he's prepped and ready to go. Let's start over on the offensive side of the ball. Albert, who do you have for MVP?
It has to be Russell Wilson. He is. Everybody is complaining about it. Does he make mistakes? Yes, he does. Everybody makes mistakes, but so far he is doing very well. He already has more touchdowns now than he had last season complete. I think he is doing very well with the scheme. We are getting better and better. And he still has some stupid mistakes, but that's part of the play. It's all in split reaction, split second decision. It happens. But for me, it is Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, not a bad choice, man. Quarterback tends to be the leader on the offense, and if your team is doing well, then your quarterback is usually in the conversation. Michael Ronquillo in the conversation, coming in and saying Javonte Williams is his MVP. Certainly would get comeback player of the year for the Broncos by a long mile, but agreed, man. He's put in some hard work, and he's contributing to this team. It's not just Javonte, kind of being pulled along by the rest. He's putting in good work. So good call on that, Michael. Trevor, you got a good call on the offensive MVP here?
Yeah, I have a guy that I really have a lot of praise for to have since he got drafted, Courtland Sutton. He leads the Broncos in receiving yards right now with 380, and he leads the Broncos in touchdowns right now with 6. So I think Courtland Sutton, he's been healthy throughout the year. I think he's been a reliable target for Russell Wilson. I would say Courtland Sutton, but I see in the comments here, Jaleel McLaughlin is another guy. He's my honorable mention for MVP, just because he's an undrafted free agent, no expectations whatsoever, made the roster. He's done everything right to this point, and I mean, he's just 260 yards rushing, 7.1 yards a carry. So it's just amazing what he's doing right now. And he looks like a guy that a mainstay on this roster right now. And the combination of him and Javonte, I really like going forward for the Broncos.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, man. But I think I'm going to end up going with Albert on this. I mean, the steps that Russell Wilson took from what he looked like last year. And quite honestly, for me to start off the year, and Albert even called me out in the comments of another show one time saying, I didn't realize you were that big of a hater on Russell, Keith. Well, he was making it a little bit rough on me, man. He was making me a little rough to be a Russell lover, let's put it that way. And he's changed that around, man. He's changed that around. If a wins versus the Chiefs and stopping that streak doesn't make you feel a little bit better, I mean, how many touchdowns could you equate to Russell Wilson? Well, I'd say all of them, because that's true. Every single one of them you could equate to Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson, I think, has to be the most valuable player on this team. Like I said, sometimes the quarterbacks kind of earn it, but he kind of earned it in two different ways. You know what I mean? He earned it from his turnaround from last year. Now, kind of what you were talking about, Trevor, and kind of like our good friend Roy, who came in here and said Jaleel, though he originally said Jameel, and he said, oops, Jaleel. Jaleel McLaughlin for his MVP. When you talk about the most value you're getting within a player, how can you not at least give an honorable mention to Jaleel McLaughlin, an undrafted free agent? You're getting the most value, if we're talking dollars to production, out of Jaleel McLaughlin than almost any other player on this roster. Fantastic performance. I hope he keeps it up. And Ernie Mays is coming in, and he's saying Pookie's his MVP. So,
with your guys' MVPs, before you get going, Keith.
Go ahead, man.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Go ahead, man.
Do you think Russell Wilson has done enough at this point? Has he shown Sean Payton enough since he was your guys' MVPs and what he's done? I mean, the stats definitely prove it, but
enough to what? Be his quarterback next year or what?
Going forward. Yeah, going forward. Because everybody's talking about still the whole, cutting Russell Wilson thing. I still hear that chatter a little bit. But I'm just kind of curious on your guys' thoughts since he was your guys' MVP. Has he done enough to earn Sean Payton's trust going into next year and forward?
I'll let Albert go first, buddy.
Okay, if you let Russell Wilson go, who are you going to get as a QB?
You trade up for the draft, you'd have to. If you're going to because you have no cap room.
And you only have 6 draft picks. Yeah. How do you trade up?
That's what I've been saying. That's my argument too.
You give away all your draft picks. You do like the Saints did when they traded up to get Ricky Williams. Just saying.
Sean Payton has
our draft picks.
Yeah. And then you're still not sure if it is going to be a hit or a miss. Williams, right now, everybody is talking haywire about Williams. But to me, it looks like he is a disaster. How has he played the last couple of weeks? So nothing is a certainty with the draft. Right now, you know what you have in Russell Wilson. And if you have him another year, let him play another year. And like I said, with the new cap money, it's not going to be that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah, I mean everything I think will flux with a new cap, and new contracts will demand just a little bit more all the way across the board, and there'll always be one position that you're like, had no idea that wide receiver was going to be paying that much this year, like it was just a couple of years ago. But that being said, I agree with you in the fact that, hey, I'm not sure if I can win it all with Russell Wilson, but I know I'm just not going to be a perennial loser with Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? And you certainly have the possibility of going out in the draft and picking up, I don't know, a Ryan Leaf, who you think has all the potential in the world, and you miss, and all he's going to give you is losses, guaranteed. All you're going to do is lose. I mean, you don't want to go down that path and then give up on a Russell Wilson. Almost made me forget we had to get the defensive MVPs, but Michael Ronquillo's already coming in with his. I'll give Michael Ronquillo, the floor first since I was a little delayed in my thinking. He's coming in and saying Jonathan Cooper is my defensive player MVP. I'll go around the other way this time. I'm going to go to Trevor first. Trevor, are you in agreement with Michael Ronquillo? You got a different idea of who our defensive MVP should be this year?
Yeah.
Or mid-season this year.
Well, no, so I was going to say on those draft picks, as Denver continues to win, this is my last thought on it, it's going to be harder for them to trade it for a quarterback anyway. So if they're going to take a quarterback in the draft, they'd probably have to trade back, I would think, to get a quarterback depending on where they're at. It's just going to be harder for them as they win down the board to trade up for a quarterback. So that's just something to keep in mind. But
winning getting in our way again.
No, Michael, he took my one other guy with Jonathan Cooper, and I agree with that 7th round draft pick. I mean, he's been great, 4.5 sacks this year. But I'm going to go Nick Bonito on this one because I had a couple guys. Cooper was right there with Nick Bonito as far as my MVP, mid-season MVP. Nick Bonito, 5.5 sacks, second season with Denver this year. I think people doubted the draft pick when it happened, and I think last year, and it was really easy to kind of get down on him a little bit. He wasn't great against the run. He's been better this year, in my opinion, against the run. He's really helped out just getting after the quarterback this year. So I really like Nick Bonito and what he's going to do for Denver going forward. And George Payton pick, by the way. 2 George Payton picks, by the way. Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito. Just saying.
Oh, man. Someone's making a ploy for another topic on another show, man. Mm-hmm. I can see it. Maybe even an article if we can get past our troubles there and get him out there for everybody. Albert, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, those are the 2 names that have been thrown out so far. Are you in agreement with one of those 2? Are you going someplace else? Give it to me, buddy.
To me, those are honorable mentions. For me, it is Josie Jewell. Because when Josie didn't play, when he was gone, how bad was our defense? He came back and it turned around rapidly. Even when Justin Simmons was there, but Josie Jewell wasn't there, we were not great. But Josie Jewell came back, and it totally changed. Uh, Baron Browning came back this weekend, but it didn't help for last week. I think Josie Jewell is my MVP.
Very good. The outlaw Josie Jewell getting the MVP vote for mid-season from Albert. I like it, buddy. A guy that, again, maybe this is the reason that the Broncos weren't all hot to trot on trying to get Josie Jewell out the door. Maybe it is another prove-it season for him. And if it is, it's another good season that he's putting together. And if that's the case, that's 2 good seasons, because I remember when the talk of the town was, we need to find a linebacker, we need to find a linebacker, we need to find a linebacker. And it's been pretty quiet since Josie Jewell has stepped up. He has had a pretty good season, man. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of be right on that Trevor train, though, man. Nick Benito was a guy that I really thought needed to step up in his second year. I saw it from the minute I saw him at training camp. He was a different guy. He looked much bigger in the bottom half of his body. And that being said, it's translated to him getting better and better each game. I don't know if he started off fantastic, but man, it doesn't seem like he's gotten any worse in the last 3 or 4 games. He's really solidified the edge and been able to help in the run as well as the pass. Just need him to turn the corner and get a couple more sacks, and I think he's really got something going on there. But that rotation now with Baron Browning is not getting he's getting the short end of the stick because he's only gotten 1 game really underneath his belt now, and we're already talking about midseason. We could be talking about him being up at that list, on the top of that list come the end of the season, in my opinion, man. Not at the bottom of the list, always at the top of the list, and maybe with a little bit of a poo-poo mouth in here. Pearl Heater, I'm gonna go ahead and edit you saying, look, how many first-round quarterbacks were poo-poo? Never did anything in the NFL. Yeah, that's very, very true, man. It's hit or miss, man.
Well,
you never know. You never know who you're going to end up with, quite honestly, sometimes.
Well, and I was going to say, I'm not like exactly going for, I want Denver to trade up in the draft because, again, I think this team has holes in other places that they could use those draft picks and better themselves. I think I'm actually, as of right now where they sit, I would like to move back. I think they're still within the top 10. So then moving back, getting and possibly getting a quarterback in the first round. The thing with the first round is you get that 5th-year option. So you have quarterbacks in control 5 years instead of 4. So that's the only reason that I would say move back to the middle or end of the first round to get a quarterback if you're going to go that direction, and then you can get more draft capital to help out the current team as well while having a guy that's not Jarrett Stidham to back up Russell Wilson.
Fair enough.
To me, for a quarterback, the 5th-year option is not that important. You know by year 2 if you're going to keep your quarterback or not.
Fair to say, man.
And that's how often have we seen that after the second year, even in the 3rd year, they're going to give those brand new quarterbacks big contracts. Yeah. How often have we seen that lately? So the 5th-year option is just a gimmick in the quarterback case. Because if you trust in your quarterback, you're going to have him for quite a time, or by the 3rd year they are gone anyway.
And not to, Trevor, poo-poo your idea, but the only thing I don't like about that particular mindset is I got to really be in love with a quarterback that I think is going to fall mid to late and still think has a potential in order to lead this team. I like the idea of falling back. I like the idea of trading out, but I like the idea of, getting future picks or, again, using that pick in the later picks in order to, pick up more of a best player available and maybe not just pigeonhole yourself into an idea of that's where I'll get, quote unquote, get my quarterback, So Michael Ronquillo's coming in, about ready to wrap up the show as we have gone a full hour, plus those few minutes that were out there in internet, I don't know, catalog someplace that we'll have to try to delete. But he's saying special teams is my position MVP. Wow. We didn't necessarily think about it this way, but I'll go back around Albert first, Trevor second. offense, defense, or special teams, who's been the MVP so far between the three groups, Albert?
I have to give it to the offense. They kept us in most of the games, except for the Dolphins one, but that's an extreme case. But yeah, for me it is the offense.
Very good, man. Offense for Albert, special teams for Michael. Trevor, where are you going on this one, man?
I would say defense, just what they've done the past couple of weeks and how they kept Mahomes kind of under wrap. I think I don't think the Broncos. It would be a lot closer game if it wasn't for the defense stepping up. And I think that's why you're seeing this team kind of turn it around. The defense is starting to step it up, and Van Joseph is really getting a lot out of these guys going forward. And I don't think if you see this defense stepping up, I don't know that we're sitting here saying, "Oh, Broncos may have a chance at the playoffs." I think we're talking about, well, maybe it is time to start selling off pieces.
Trevor, pretty happy about where the defense is, especially within this last 3 games. And Chad Jensen, appreciate you jumping in, Chad, so much. Coming in saying happy Halloween, everyone. Well, happy Halloween to you. Hope you're celebrating. Maybe, jamming out to some Bridge the Gap at the Halloween party over the Jensen household. So appreciate you jumping in here, and happy Halloween to you. I want to go ahead and I want to be right there with Michael Ronquillo. Compared to where this team has been over the last few years, compared to what they put together this entire season, we can maybe talk about one Will Lutz missed field goal in like the first game that he was with us, and beyond that, kicking game's been good, punting game's been good, coverage has been great, getting turnovers, kickoffs, no bad kickoffs. We haven't been kicking out of bounds. We haven't been giving up big returns. I mean, this special teams unit has been playing very, very good, and they have kept the Broncos and sometimes maybe given the Broncos opportunity when we talk about recovering a fumble on a punt, are almost giving points directly to this team. So, they've done a fantastic job, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to agree. I'm also going to agree with Pearl because she's coming in saying, great show and thank you, and I'll agree. Trevor, Albert, fantastic show. You guys really brought it tonight. Appreciate you guys so much. And thank you not only to Trevor and Albert, but Pearl and all of our friends that joined in with us tonight. As I'm losing my words and my thoughts, and it's just not processing like it was at the very beginning of the show. Maybe that's showing it's time to wrap it all up. But before we wrap it up, want to get some final thoughts. Trevor, I'm going to get your final thoughts as we wrap up tonight's show, bud.
Yeah, so I would just say happy Halloween, everybody. Again, thank you guys for joining us, everyone who joins us tonight and who's going to be watching this. You guys make this show possible. This is the reason why we do this. And it was such a fun – it's my first show, first Halloween show with everybody. So I just want to thank Albert and Keith as well for having me. And I enjoy being a part of this community. I'm very thankful for all you guys. And I can't wait to chat more with you guys and just continue to enjoy the bye week, enjoy this Chiefs win, and go Broncos.
Love it, buddy. Love it, man. Yeah, big love all the way around. Appreciate everyone and the opportunity that we get to serve you guys. And Albert, I'm going to give you some closing thoughts as well, man.
Yeah, it is always great to be here on the show and to have all the support from all the people who come into the show. We have a week of rest. We can, cool our voices down. That we are not have a raspy voices from last Sunday, so that's really nice. And then we will see football again on Monday night and not on a Sunday. So it is even a super bye week, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's good. I just want to thank everybody who was on the show: Michael, the Gritty Gang. Of course, my lovely wife, Pearl, Roy, Jeremy, Ernie, Kenny, Kurt of the K&K show, Graham, Clayton, Leanna. Should we all call her Big Sis?
Yeah, you can all call her Big Sis. She would enjoy that. She'll be your Big Sis, I guarantee it.
So thanks for coming on the show, Big Sis, Jody, and of course the Mile High Priest, Chad Jensen. It's always wonderful to see you in the show.
Yeah, it's always wonderful to jump in here. Guys, I'll be honest, it's Halloween. I know a lot of things are going on. Wasn't sure exactly what we got. We got fantastic comments, and great viewers that came in. Appreciate every single one of you jumping in here, being part of the show, man. And guys, if you could just give me 2 seconds, I just wanted to give a big thank you to everyone for joining in, being part of this fantastic show. But as always, we are presented by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Remember, head on over to Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We've got a couple different ways that you can get there. You can head on over to Facebook, and you could type in Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Find us there. You can head on over to the Rocky Mountain Sports Network website and go RockyMountainSN.com. That's RockyMountainSN.com. Head right on over to our fantastic website. You can also catch Rocky Mountain on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you're not familiar. So, guys, check out Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We cover all your Colorado sports, from Broncos to Rockies to Avalanche to Nuggets, and things are just getting heated up, getting going. And of course, too, guys, check out, if you search out on Apple Podcasts, just starting out, if you search out Rocky Mountain Sports Network, you'll find a few podcasts as we got Down the Mountain jumping in there, and we'll have more jumping in each and every day and each and every week. So stay tuned, and appreciate you jumping there. We also appreciate, and Mile High Dutchie was a little early on his screen time there, but Willow Seasonings and Blends. Willow Seasonings and Blends is a Colorado veteran-owned, Bronco-loving, all-natural seasonings, spices, sauces, and rubs company. Check them out. You can head on over to willowseasonings.com and use promo code DBR2023. That's promo code DBR2023. Now, the reason you want to do that, you're going to get 15% off your purchase, plus you're going to give $1, or you're not going to be given $1. It's actually David Slade of the fantastic Willow Seasonings and Blends. He donates $1 right on over to a family in need over at Rocky Mountain Sports Network, and we appreciate that so much. Willow Seasonings, spice up your life. Head to willowseasonings.com today. Guys, appreciate it so much. I've been stumbling over this, and I think, well, I'm going to have to try to do it again because I didn't come up with anything during the few days off. So we'll get to it. I just want to get to a few more things. Oh, by the way, I want to bring this up. Michael Ronquillo and Russell Wilson was at the Nuggets game yesterday with his family. Super, super cool. Looks like they're always in with the Colorado sports. You saw that as well, Trevor?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, him and his son, I believe, was there. Yeah, enjoyed a nice Nuggets victory, too.
There you go. And did anybody see that Russell Wilson went to the Broncos Halloween party? Ooh, didn't see it? Guess what? He got all dressed up as Coach Prime.
Oh, he's definitely supporting. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Love it. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Go out there. Russell Wilson, Halloween party, Coach Prime. Looking pretty good, man. Looking pretty tight. He had it going on. Yeah. Michael Ronquillo coming in saying Broncos Country, this is the way. Absolutely. Pearl coming in here and saying, have to try them. I love spices. I'm telling you, Pearl, unlike any other spices or sauces I've ever had, especially the spices and the rubs, all fantastic, all great ingredients, not a bunch of just salt. You'll get the flavor that you're expecting and wanting. It's fantastic. And yes, Michael Ronquillo, Coach Prime, Russell Wilson was Coach Prime for Halloween costume. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And in doing that, I'm going to try this again. Keep your feet in the stirrups. Keep your guns in your holsters and keep the Broncos Oops. Keep the Broncos in your heart. I got all excited. Until next time, Broncos. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m., you can catch the Denver Bronco Roundup. We've been doing post-game. We've been doing Friday night shows, Friday night pregame shows. Check us on out. We're going to get out of here. I got too excited. I tried to leave on a high note. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.